So, the new Devil May Cry show. This show is also a goddamn mess, but if I'm being perfectly honest here, unlike with Daredevil Born Again, where I still ended up kind of liking it in spite of its massive issues, this show, not so much. So, I am a very big Devil May Cry fan. I wasn't always. I never played it when I was younger. It wasn't until Devil May Cry 5 where I really started to get into the series, particularly the scene where Dante has his little Michael Jackson dance. Believe it or not, that scene alone is what got me into the franchise, because I saw that, I thought it was utterly ridiculous and so hilarious that I just had to give the series a try. I was already a fan of other action games like Star Wars The Force Unleashed and God of War, and I figured I hear a lot about Devil May Cry, I saw that scene and loved it, and so I figured, you know what, why not do some research on the franchise and see if it's for me. I picked up the HD collection, not DMC5 first, because DMC5 was sort of the ending of the story. Apparently it was the end of the Sons of Sparta saga, and I didn't really know what that meant, so I figured I would catch up on the rest of the games first. And while the series itself had ups and downs, mainly DMC2, I ended up very much enjoying it. I played DMC2 first, which I know a lot of people are going to sound like, they're going to be like, what? Why did you start with the worst one? Simple. I wanted to get it out of the way, because I knew it was bad. And I figured, just get that out of the way, because I know I'm not going to like it, but I'm also going to want to play it. So I played it just to get it out of the way, and yeah, it was awful. It's one of my least favorite games I've ever played. It's not like the worst game I've ever played. I've played worse, but good God, it is so boring. It's so boring. But I didn't let it color my perception of the rest of the franchise, because that was the bad one. Everyone told me it was bad. I just wanted to play it first to see how it was, get it out of the way, and then move on to the good stuff. So afterwards I played DMC1, which I actually really enjoyed, although I guess anything's better than DMC2, so maybe that helped. But DMC1 was genuinely enjoyable in spite of how it's aged. DMC3 I really liked in spite of my little issues with it, which were eventually fixed with the Switch version for reasons I'm sure a lot of Devil May Cry fans are aware. I played DMC4, which I enjoyed, but I didn't enjoy as much as 3, and so I wanted to see how 5 would end up, and I played 5, and to say I've put way too much time into DMC5 would be the understatement of the century. I love Devil May Cry 5. Loved it to death. And, eventually I continued playing, the other games more, including 5. I played a lot more 5, but I also went back to DMC4 and DMC3 a whole bunch. I did actually go back to 2 to unlock Trish, and it was a miserable experience, so please, someone, acknowledge my suffering. I didn't go back much to DMC1, mostly just because I didn't really see much of a point in it, but I probably will do so at some point. I even played the reboot just to give it a shot, and while the story of the reboot is awful for reasons that I might actually get into given its similarities with this new series, gameplay-wise though, I honestly think the reboot's pretty good. Gameplay-wise, I like it. It's just, story is fuck the story of the reboot, but the gameplay was decent. It even has some things that I like about it over DMC5. Not much, but some things. Still though, DMC5, if you have not played it, please give it a shot. It is one of the best action games I've ever played, and I'm still playing it to this day. DMC3 is also really good as well. I had my issues with it when it didn't have the style switching, but believe me, it is still a great game, and now that it has style switching with the Switch version, it is so much better, and it was already a great game to begin with. So really, just play both DMC3 and DMC5. I'd also recommend playing through 4 as well, because while 4 is definitely a flawed game, mostly because of stuff that happened behind the scenes with the game, I would still recommend it because 4 still has a lot of things I really like. So really, just play those games. And I would say if you have the HD collection, play the first one just for historical value. But really, the series as a whole, while it's not always great, The stuff that's great about it is fantastic. 3 and 4 and 5 are all great games in their own right, and even the reboot's not terrible. So it's safe to say that after playing all of those games extensively, I think I can call myself a DMC fan. I'm sure my scrub-a-dub-dub scrubby footage of DMC5 is going to make a lot of people kind of vomit, but it is my footage, so, I mean, I apologize in advance, but I want to use DMC footage for this DMC video, so, you know, I figure it'd be appropriate. Also, if I'm using DMC4 footage, it might be 30 frames per second. I tried to record at 60 on my PlayStation 5, but it wasn't having it. Kingdom Hearts has no issue, but for some reason, I don't know why, DMC4 does not record at 60. Or maybe I can fix it. I don't know. If it runs at 60, then I fixed it. If it doesn't, I don't know what to do, so any help would be appreciated if you guys know what's wrong. So I had history with the franchise. Not as much as some other people, but I definitely put in my time as a DMC fan. And, yeah, to say I was interested in this series would, you know, I'd say be apt. I also did watch the previous work from Adi Shankar, I believe his name is. I know his last name's Shankar, so I'm going to call him that from now on. Shankar is the person who worked on the Castlevania show with Warren Ellis, and my thoughts on Warren Ellis aside, because he's a piece of shit for reasons that I won't get into, but I think should be obvious if you do a quick wiki search. I thought that the Castlevania show, I know a lot of Castlevania fans don't like it because it's not a very good adaptation, and while I have my issues with the second half of the show, I still thought that the first half was pretty good. You know, granted, I'm not that big of a Castlevania fan. I've only really played Symphony of the Night. And I liked Symphony of the Night, not as much as most people did, but I still liked it. So, I'm not the best judge for it, but I did enjoy his work on Castlevania. I liked the Castlevania TV show. Don't take that as me saying it should be 100% Castlevania, though, because I'm not a huge Castlevania nut, so it's probably best left to a fan to say something. But I thought it was enjoyable for what it was worth. Minus Season 3, because Season 3 sucked. That season sucked. And Season 4, while I did enjoy it overall, it had some issues and did some things that I didn't think were a very good idea, mainly with Dracula. And if you've seen the series, you know what happens and you know what I'm talking about. A lot of people were very skeptical of this series, and I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because I enjoyed the work on Castlevania. However, as time went on, we got a new Castlevania TV show, Nocturne, which I have not seen because I didn't really want to. I heard it really wasn't very good. And while I hear Season 2 is better, I hear it's still not great, and ultimately that kind of dampened my excitement a bit. Sure, I didn't watch the show, so maybe I should just watch it and give it the benefit of the doubt, but when you hear something is bad, it kind of makes you go, I can wait. I can wait. I don't need to watch it right now. So I was kind of iffy on seeing what they did past that, but still, you know, the DMC show, the new DMC anime, DMC Netflix or Netflix May Cry, or some people may call it Lady May Cry, which is actually a pretty fitting name, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So, Netflix May Cry, I was still cautiously optimistic for it, in spite of that, because I enjoyed the previous show, Castlevania. Even if I didn't know much about the series, I could still say I enjoyed it. And, you know, I wanted to support it because I wanted to, well, maybe not wanted to support it because I ended up pirating the entire show, so maybe I didn't want to support it. Either way, I was willing to see where it would go. Some clips came out. Some of them were okay, others not so much. I heard Studio Mir, who worked on Legend of Korra, were working on the animation, and, you know, Legend of Korra I like. more than most people, and I have issues with its writing, but Studio Mir was not writing the show, they were just animating it, and I thought they were really good when it came to animation, so, you know, I mean, say what you want to about their writing on Voltron and Legend of Korra, but they didn't write those shows, they just animated them. And when it came to animation, they were working on the animation for Devil May Cry, Netflix May Cry. Okay, yeah, fine. But then I watched the show when it came out, kind of snuck up on me because I was keeping an eye on it, but I wasn't following it religiously like a lot of people were. I was just kind of like on and off with it, where it's like, okay, new clip, I'll check it out, see if it's good or not. You know, I heard some conflicting information, I had some conflicting thoughts on some of the changes. But then I watched the show. I pirated most of it because I don't really want to pay for a Netflix subscription. I don't really like to pay for subscription services in general, mainly due to very anti-consumer things that they do, which I will show on screen. Future me, please do so. So yeah, call me a fake fan if you want to, but let's be honest here, after watching the show, I'm kind of happy I decided to pirate it. I did not really enjoy the DMC Netflix show, anime, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it an anime. You can't stop me. I did not enjoy the show at all, and for various reasons. So, I know some people are going to scoff at what I'm about to say here. You know, I know the whole culture war bullshit is toxic and stupid, and I have issues with it as well, but honestly, I know people hate the term woke, and maybe saying the show is woke is going a little too far, but someone on the writing team had a fetish for Lady, I swear to God, because she is the main character of this show, not Dante. You know, Dante. The main character of the franchise, the main character of the story they're adapting. Now sure, Nero is the main character of 4 and 5, but what they're adapting is not DMC 4 and DMC 5. They're technically adapting elements of DMC 1, DMC 2, and DMC 3. And who is the main character in 1 and 3? Dante. Technically, he was the main character in 2 as well, but let's be honest here, Lucia did most of the work. Fun fact, though, Lucia was actually in the show. That was a nice callback. I appreciated that. I like Lucia. I'd like it if they do more with her in the future. Still, Dante is supposed to be the main character, and for what it's worth, while I have issues with how he's written, mainly how underpowered he is, how weak sauce he can be, how often he gets captured and is useless in a fight, until the plot demands him to actually, like, fight. How little he actually kills the demons. How Lady kills more demons than he does, which is so stupid. I have issues with him, but I do think, for the most part, in terms of personality, while it's not perfect by any means, I think, for the most part, Dante is fairly okay. I actually really think why do I say Vosh? I don't understand why I do that. Johnny Young Bosch. I think Johnny does a great job as Dante. It was definitely weird hearing his voice at first because, let's be honest here, he's supposed to be playing... He plays Nero in the main series, so hearing him as Dante is just... It just sounds weird. However, I do think that he does a good job. For one thing, Johnny is just a really, really good actor. He's just a really, really, you know, fun, charismatic actor. So even just hearing his voice, he can clearly tell he's having fun with the role and he's giving his all. In fact, for the most part, most of the voice acting is really good. Hoon Lee as the rabbit, Kevin Conroy, bless his heart, he is in the show as one of the main villains, and while I have issues with the character he voices, I think Conroy does a great job, and I will miss him dearly. Oh, I will miss that man dearly. Still, it was great to hear him again, and he plays a villain, which is actually really cool. I just wish his voice acting was in a better show. In fact, I wish that for any of the voice acting in the show. The voice acting is really good, but man, it needs to be in a better show. Overall, though, Dante, as a whole, I felt was fairly okay. He's not always very well written, and his power is really poorly written, but I do think that they mostly got the bare basics of his personality down. There are little quirks I do think they could work on, though. One, his design could use some work, and it seems like they're going to do that in Season 2, because parts of it were leaked, and he does look a lot better there, thankfully. However, the other thing that they need to work on is, his quips. I know Dante can be very quippy, and he's kind of a dork, but one of the things that I like about Dante, one of the parts about him that is charming, is that Dante isn't just a dork, he's a confident dork. He has confidence, he has gravitas when he does his shtick. You know, that's what makes him fun to watch. He doesn't really give a shit if people think he's a nerd or a dork or a loser, or if anyone makes fun of him, because he'll just dish it right back. Virgil makes fun of his weirdness sometimes, and he just takes it in stride because that's how Dante is. So having scenes where he's just like, oh, this is where I usually have a killer one-liner after killing these demons and all of that, is like having this Marvel humor, this like Tom Holland Spider-Man humor, where, oh, the quippy guy is a dork. Isn't he such a dork? He's such a dork. Let's make fun and point out how much of a dork he is, instead of just giving him the confidence he needs to actually, like, you know, or really just giving him any sense of confidence or dignity, for that matter. I get it, Dante's a dork, and they should treat him as a dork at times. However, Dante should never be embarrassed over his quips. He should never be making pop culture references, because I highly doubt that Dante gives a shit about Skeletor or Captain Planet. I don't really think he'd be into superhero stuff. And I definitely don't think he would be like, I'm drawing a blank right now, you know? Oh, this is where I usually say, man, Skeletor hasn't been the same since the 80s, or any of that cringy Marvel dialogue. Like, that's just not Dante. Dante doesn't really make many pop culture references, if any. I can't think of a single one. And even when he did make some very dorky, fun, campy comments, he had confidence. Even in DMC3, which at times did actually make Dante the butt of the joke, Dante was still had the confidence to do half of the crazy shit he does. Like, as a good example, like when he's seeing a bunch of demons and then he sneezes and the shop falls down, he still takes it in stride. It's just like, you bastards destroyed my shop. I'm gonna kill each and every single one of you. I mean, he didn't say that exactly, but still. You know, like, he had the confidence to take it in stride, despite how angry he was that the demons destroyed his shop. Or like in the opening of DMC3, where, you know, oh, the radio isn't working when he pressed the button. Instead of being like, oh man, this is so awkward, he just smashes the damn thing and it starts to play music, and that's when Dante does his shtick. You know, that's Dante. Not whatever they were doing with this. And it's not Johnny's fault. I'm sure that with better writers, Johnny could totally do a better version of Dante, of this Dante, but man, they need better writers. But, you know, for the most part, there are some fun moments with Dante. Even though the animation could be a bit weird with how they use CGI, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. The motorcycle chase was really fun. I especially liked that they brought back the fact that, you know, Dante uses a motorcycle as a sword, and he slams Agni and Rudra, and like right before Agni and Rudra get hit by it, they actually comment on how cool he is. And yeah, that's self-indulgent, but that was actually pretty cool. And it helps that the actual fight scene with the motorcycle, while it has issues, mainly with the CG, it was a genuinely fun action set piece. I'd even say that most of the action is mostly solid, mainly in the first half. You know, and there are some moments where they got Dante well. They wrote Dante well and actually captured his charismatic, you know, charm. Like, when he's going up against a bunch of soldiers, a bunch of hired guns who are after him and fighting around and shooting at him in his shop, Dante actually, like, starts shooting at random things for no reason, and it's just like, what are we shooting at? Like, that's Dante. That's perfect. Dante would totally do that, especially a younger Dante. And for what it's worth, I think Johnny is trying. He's not doing Nero. There are definitely points where he sounds like Nero, but most of the time you can tell he's trying to put on a performance of a more laid-back, devil-may-care, carefree attitude. It's just the very marvelly dialogue holds him back, and some very minor changes to his story really, really screw up everything. Mainly in terms of his, I barely want to call it a character arc, with him discovering who he is and how he's the son of Sparta, and the changes made there. And before anyone says, oh, but he hasn't become the Dante we know and love. Well, you know what? DMC3 Dante wasn't the Dante we came to know and love either. And yet he was still a younger version of Dante. He still felt like he could become that version that we see in DMC1, which he does at the end of DMC3. He even wears the outfit, and it's completely justified. So it's like, you know, all of that stuff, like, throw it out the window. And before anyone says this is an adaptation, yeah, I get it, but this is an adaptation that is supposed to... It tries to pride itself as a more accurate adaptation of the series. And it's trying to be like, hey, you know, we have Dante and Lady and Virgil. See, we're just like the games. It's even copying a lot of design elements and even has Devil May Cry music in it, along with a bunch of other music, which I'll get to as well. But it's like, the show is very clearly trying to pay tribute to the games, but when it's missing what the series is actually about, when it misses the charm of it and what it's really about, you lose something. And sure, you could argue, well, it's just trying to be its own thing. But here's the thing. I think it fails as its own story. And it fails doubly so as an adaptation. Because even if I look away and say, okay, this is not Dante, this is not Devil May Cry, this is its own thing, I still think it's bad. Because our supposed main hero is an incompetent idiot who doesn't get anything done until the very end when the writing says he's allowed to. And speaking of him being not the main character, let's talk about the actual main character, Lady. And no, not the lady from the games. That lady was awesome. No, let's talk about this version of Lady who, look, whether the show is woke or not is up to you. I don't really care, because I could not give a shit about the stupid culture war. I do not give a shit. But I will say this, someone clearly had something, they had some kind of something for Lady, because she is a creator's pet in this show, and it is awful. And it doesn't help that this version of Lady is, one, an entirely different character, and two, not a very good character. She's annoying, she's just really aggravating, she's aggressive for no reason, she treats Dante like shit for no reason. And you know, if she had a character arc where she dropped a lot of that aggression, I wouldn't have an issue. But any kind of character arc that she had is ruined with the final moments of the show, which, believe me, we'll be talking about. But she's also just really annoying to watch, she's annoying to listen to, and in my opinion, she is just so awful. She's such an awful character. Like, look, let's just throw the fact that this is not Lady out the window and just judge her as her own character. She's abrasive, she's narcissistic at times, she's annoying, she's combative for no reason, and she's always doing it to people who don't deserve it. And just when you think, like, oh, well, maybe Dante's earned her trust, she still treats him like a piece of shit for no reason. And look, Lady and Dante have always traded spat with each other. They've always spat at each other all of the time in the show. Look at the Madhouse anime, for example. But it's always been in good fun for the most part. Dante clearly just shrugs it off or takes it in stride because that's how it is, and Lady just does it to annoy him, but Lady still very much cares for Dante. You can tell they are close. Sure, they bicker like siblings and treat each other like shit sometimes, but it's in the same way that friends treat each other like shit. And I get it, this is before they became friends, but even in DMC3, she was never this combative. In DMC3, Lady wanted nothing to do with Dante. She treated him with hostility, but for a very good reason, because she hated demons, and Dante was part demon. And really, she just kind of didn't want to interact with him at all. You know, yeah, she treated him like shit, but she learned from it and realized, oh, well, maybe you're not such a bad person after all. Your humanity is what makes you who you are. Maybe somewhere out there, a devil could cry for someone, for losing someone they love. That was the purpose of her arc, right? That's the entire point of the franchise. It's named Devil May Cry after all. And afterwards, while she still has like little, you know, quips in here and there, she's mostly cool with him. She drops a lot of the hostility after, you know, her and Dante, you know, kind of find common ground, and Dante tells her, listen, I'll take care of it, and explains why he feels responsible. You know, let me play you the scene in Devil May Cry 3 again.
What's wrong? You tired? Then stand back. I'll take care of this.
No, you stand back!
I told you, you can't do it. Don't you get it? This is not a human's job.
You're the one who doesn't get it! It's not something you can reason with. It has nothing to do with me being a human and you being a demon. I'm driven by the inability to forgive him! My soul is screaming, demanding me to kill him! That's enough motivation to keep me going. Besides, this is my family matter. You should stay out of it.
Okay, lady. I get the picture now, but I can't just sit back and watch either. I'm pretty pissed at him too, you know. Now, get out of my way, or there'll be some consequences.
Fair enough. I wasn't planning on letting any demons live anyway.
I'll take care of him.
Why do you care so much?
This whole business started with my father sealing the entrance between the two worlds. And now, my brother's trying to break that spell and turn everything into Demonville. This is my family matter, too. Quite frankly, at first, I didn't give a damn. But because of you, I know what's important now. I know what I need to do.
Wait.
Trust me, I'll make things right for you. That's what my soul is telling me to do.
Use this.
How much is it gonna cost me?
You can give me your name.
I wanted to play that scene because after this scene, Lady drops any and all hostility against Dante. And when this happens in the new anime, she doesn't drop any hostility. Like, she really doesn't. Like, okay, maybe she drops it a little bit, but she still clearly does not like Dante and does not trust him, given that she betrays him at the very end of the show. It felt like she hadn't learned anything. After everything Lady went through in the show, which, you know, you can watch the show and find out, but she loses her squad, finds out her boss is a piece of shit and treated her squad like cattle to be sacrificed. Even after learning that her boss is a piece of shit, she still betrays Dante. Even after learning that Dante can be trusted, and even after learning that there are good demons, which I'll get into why that's a terrible choice too, but even after learning about that, it just felt like she hadn't learned anything. And all of the deaths that happen at the very end of the season, they are just as much on her as they are on Kevin Conroy's character, the vice president character. Barnes, I think his name is. I don't care. Look, I love Kevin Conroy. I do. I think he's great in the show. I don't give a shit about the character he plays. I have nothing against the actor. I love Kevin Conroy. I do. I do not care about his character, so I'm going to just not care about his name. I'll just call him VP or Vice Prez. Anyway, the point is, Lady doesn't feel like she has a full character arc. And before anyone says, oh, but that's what Season 2's for, this is a season of television. By the end of the show, I should feel like the show is going somewhere. I should feel like there should be some kind of payoff. It doesn't feel like there is. But even if you take into account that it's its own thing, I just think Lady is insufferable. And I'm sorry if your ears are going to be bleeding after this, but this needs to be addressed.
The worst truth is that not only are demons real, they're really fucking hard to kill. Devil spawn, motherfucker. 2,000 years ago, when our world was still connected to their shithole, even that thing should have trouble healing from a bomb going off in its fucking neck. You just happen to be walking around with half the key to fucking hell on your neck? This dumb fuck devil spawn has no idea it's leading us right to it. But the way you charged in to take the rabbit on solo, you got some elite-sized balls. We go in now. Take the stairs and stay sharp. We have to be ready for any kind of fucked up demon bull. Shit. Weak-ass sob story. But after everything that's happened, maybe I don't actually know shit. Fuck.
Already?
Yeah. It'll be harder to study in 100 fucking pieces. We're one floor from the top. The amulet's still up there. Let's go see what that Roger fucking Rabbit reject's been doing this whole time. I'm gonna make it so the rabbit needs a magician to pull him out of his own asshole.
She makes my mouth look way cleaner. You know, I cuss quite a bit in my videos. I cuss a lot. I will fully admit to that. Hell, in the last video I made, the rant on the Switch 2, I was cussing like a motherfucker. But Jesus Christ, she puts me to shame. And it's so forced. It's so forced. Like, I know the cussing in the Castlevania show could be a little bit forced, but this is like 10 times that. It's ridiculous how much she curses. But, yeah, Lady, by all intents and purposes, Lady is the main character of her show. Her show. It's not supposed to be her show, but it is her show. She is, for all intents and purposes, the main character. When she shouldn't be. This should be Dante's story. And Dante feels like an afterthought in his own story. Dante's more of a plot device than anything else. And, you know, the show is supposed to make me think, oh, Dante's, you know, becoming a successor to his father by the very end, because he's the one fighting the demons at the end. But it's also like, it doesn't feel earned, because it just feels like, oh, shit, we kind of forgot about Dante. Yeah, he needs to be the one to take on the final boss. We spent a bit too much time on Lady. We should probably fix that. Whoever's on the writing team that wanted to give Lady all of this screen time, could you just stop? Just stop. Just don't do that. Okay, just put the pencil down, think about what you're doing, and just stop for a moment and just think. She's not the main character. Dante is. Or better yet, at this point, I hate Lady so much in this show, just kill her off. Look, no offense to the actress, she's just doing her job. I have nothing against the actress herself. I just hate this version of Lady. I hate this version of the character, and I would like it if she got a bullet between the eyes. I do not like this version of Lady, and the fact that we spend so much time with her, it was insufferable. Ugh. But anyway, enough about her. So, they messed up the two main leads, which is pretty bad. But what about the rest of the show, right? Well, like I said, it has good voice acting. I think it has good action sequences in spite of some awful CGI. And, you know, it has some cool moments. Oh, you know what? The rabbit. The White Rabbit, voiced by Hoon Lee, who played Master Splinter in the 2012 TMNT show. He was good. He was good. I think he should have been tied to Dante more and not Lady. Or if they were going to tie the rabbit to Lady, then they should have tied the rabbit to both Dante and Lady, because Dante feels like a complete outlier in this whole thing. But you know what? Credit where credit is due. The White Rabbit was a great villain, and I think that they could do something with him in the main series. Maybe not tie him to Darkcom, because I hate the concept of Darkcom in the show, and I hope it never comes to Devil May Cry, the main series. But the Rabbit, he was alright. I liked the Rabbit. I thought he was a good villain. Honestly, in a different show, I could see him being a good villain. And his motivations made perfect sense. I thought that what he did afterwards, the actions that he took, as cruel as they are, I think he justifies it well, even if it doesn't justify what he does. His justification for, I'm using the methods that you forced me to, I thought it made sense. Some people thought it was rushed. I thought it made sense. The White Rabbit was great. I have nothing but love for that rabbit, and I thought his action scenes were cool. Wish he didn't become a huge blob at the end, but whatever. I hate Darkcom. I hate the concept of Darkcom. It is so obvious, like, oh, evil, bad government organization. Turns out they're the real bastards. They're basically the Order of the Swords, but far less subtle and somehow more annoying. And again, I love Kevin Conroy. I think he does a great job in this show. I'm stating it because I want people to get it in their heads. I have nothing against that man. That man is a treasure. And I have nothing but respect for Kevin Conroy, and I want him back, damn it. May he rest in peace. I loved his performance in this, and I love his Batman. But as for the character he plays, the Vice President character, I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about him. And I don't give a fuck about Lady's crew either. And I was happy to watch them die. That was my favorite part of the show, because I got to hear V's theme, which I thought got a pretty decent remix, and I got to watch the characters die. And if that makes me sound like a fucking asshole or a serial killer, then I guess it does. I'm sorry, I enjoyed seeing them die. I didn't care about their characters, so seeing them die was kind of fun. They try to make you care about them a little bit. It doesn't work. It honestly feels like, oh, well, these characters are about to die, so let's just shoehorn in some moments between, just to kind of give them a moment, and then they can just kind of leave the story. And that's basically what it was. And they're an afterthought. You know, it's funny how the Vice Pres says exactly what I was thinking, that they were insignificant, and I thought, oh, I don't like your character, but you are right about that. They are definitely insignificant. That is very true. What else was there? Oh, you know what? I guess I'll just talk about the ending. I stopped after we got to the part where Dante was cryogenically frozen. So let me just explain the ending. And I'm assuming you've seen the show at this point, so if you haven't seen the show, full spoilers. So they do this whole thing with demons where there are actually a good race of demons known as Makai. I need to talk about this before I get into the ending. They're basically human-demon hybrid refugees, sort of, kind of. It's not very well explained. They do something with hell where they don't make it hell, they just make it an alternate dimension. And they do this stupid thing that I've been seeing a lot in shows, and I'm getting tired of it too, because it's... Look, the idea on principle is not bad, but it needs to be in a different series. The idea that, oh, they're not demons, they're just misunderstood creatures from another universe, or another dimension, or another planet, or whatever. They're basically aliens. And they try to do this whole thing with refugees. It's supposed to be an allegory for the Iraq-American conflict, and I don't want to get into politics. I am inching closer towards that, aren't I? Look, I'm not going to say anything about the conflict itself, but I will say this. The Makai do not belong in Devil May Cry at all. This is a franchise where you treat the demons like shit. You kill them indiscriminately because they are evil. They are demons. And you style on them, and you shit on their day, and you treat them like shit. You act like a son of a gun. You brutally beat them down as Nero. You cut them in the most precise and clean way as Virgil. You laugh in their face as they're being ganged up on as V. And you treat them like garbage as Dante because he's just such a dick. Like, look at the taunts and look at the footage. Do these look like people you can, like, be like, oh, but they're just misunderstood? No, because they're demons. And before anyone says anything, yes, there are good demons in Devil May Cry. It is not new to Devil May Cry. The series is even called Devil May Cry. But here's the thing. Those are supposed to be special occasions. They are supposed to be very rare occurrences. Sparda is not just every demon. He's not like any other demon. And it's not just because he's super strong. It's because despite being a demon, he had the strength to stand up and fight against his own kind for the sake of the human race. He gained a heart. He gained humanity despite being a demon. That was what made him special. Trish is another case where she also had that. And there are other demons as well. In the original Madhouse anime, there was a demon that fell in love with a human, very much like Sparda. And, you know, they didn't pull a twist on it where it turns out he was acting or he becomes evil. No, he's still living amongst the humans. And he is still living with his, you know, the one he loves. And it was a great episode. It also reminded Dante of his, you know, his parents. And then there's also Dante himself, being a half-breed. He himself has humanity. His humanity is his strength. However, again, those are exceptions. And yes, there are humans who are also as bad, if not worse, than demons, like Arkham and the demons from the Order of the Sword, humans who turned themselves into demons and tried to gain demonic power, but lost their humanity in the process and thus had to be stopped. But these people are usually seen as irredeemable. Demons in particular are not usually seen as misunderstood. Most of the time, they are cattle for you to style on and kill. And so when you put all of the demons as trying to fight for their rights, basically to live in another world, to basically have them be refugees, and have it be in a series where Dante styles on them, can you tell that this doesn't really work in this series? And again, the idea that demons are misunderstood, it could work in another franchise. Heck, it even works in Devil May Cry, but it's not supposed to be normal. Demons like Sparda are not normal, they are special cases to be treated differently, because they have some kind of something that gives them humanity. They gain a conscience, they gain humanity, they gain a soul. Demons, normally though, in Devil May Cry, should not have this. And the fact that they do, it just fundamentally misunderstands what the games are about. The games are about Dante styling on demons and cutting them down to size in the most ludicrous way possible. Now yes, the stories are about more. But when you have this whole idea of demon refugees, one, it makes Sparda an asshole because he locked him up. He locked up the refugees with Mundus, and now they have to live in a shitty world that poisons them, which makes Sparda an asshole, which makes me wonder why Dante wants to be like Sparda and why he thinks he's a hero. And even by the end, Dante isn't even sure and doesn't really seem to give a shit, which makes me wonder, it's like, wow, you really didn't learn anything, do you? Did you? It's also one of those things where it's like, it just brings into question, because all of these demons are fighting so they can leave their home. It's not just the refugees, because when the Darkcom murders a bunch of refugees, because that's a thing in the show, because we needed to see that in a Devil May Cry show, apparently. When Darkcom murders a bunch of demon refugees, it's very clear that the demons, like the weird electricity thing that morphs into Dante and a bird and all of that stuff, the weird electric monster, it was in Devil May Cry 1, and Cavalier and Echidna and Agni and Rudra, who all look terrible because of their CGI, is just, it does not mesh. But yeah, despite that, they very clearly care at least to some degree, about the refugees. So when they're slaughtered, they feel bad about it. So those demons that Dante was styling on and beating up, they're also expected to be misunderstood bad guys. And also Virgil. Virgil apparently is siding with Mundus, or Mundus as he's called in the show, which, whatever, they did it in the reboot, I don't really care. But like, apparently Virgil is already Nilo Angelo, and he is willingly working with Mundus, which just is not Virgil, but whatever. And apparently he's going to be the main character of Season 2, which is not... whatever. But, like, apparently, like, all of these demons are just, like, misunderstood refugees, with, like, a couple of exceptions. Like, I think Mundus is an exception, and I think there's, like, one other demon that's also an exception, but it's like, now that you've established that a good chunk of demons are not, in fact, demons, they're just misunderstood people trying to live on Earth and get away from their poisonous, toxic world, it makes me wonder how exactly is Devil May Cry going to continue now that this has been established? How can you have a series about a guy who hunts down demons after they murdered his family and, you know, kills them, not only because it's fun, because that's the only thing that gives Dante joy in life besides spending time with his friends, what little time he can spend, because demons are also after him mostly 100% of the time, and he tries to keep distance from people in order to keep them safe, because he feels that his demonic heritage is also a danger to them, just as much as it is to him. But yeah, he will hunt down any demon. That is his job. He's a demon hunter. How are you going to have a show about a demon hunter who has fun playing around with demons as he kills them, and then have most demons be refugees and misunderstood? Do you see the weird kind of, like, why this doesn't work? And then, just to really drive home the Iraq-American war parallels, they play... after Dante is subdued by Lady, because Lady betrays Dante at the very end of the show, which leads to him getting cryogenically frozen, which means there's no one to stop the vice president and the leader of Darkcom from killing a bunch of innocent demons. You know, Darkcom starts their invasion of Hell, and they play American Idiot as it shows the American government slaughtering tons and tons of demon refugees. It was at this point I was laughing. I was laughing because of the lack of subtlety. I was laughing because of how just so not fitting this is, and how stupid it was. And again, it's like, and look, I love Green Day, and I love American Idiot. That song is aces. But holy shit. Yeah, I get what it's trying to say. I know, I'm not stupid. Alright, trust me, this show has the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the skull. It is not subtle. Alright, but it's like, this does not work. Holy shit, this does not work. I stopped watching after that, and I missed the very last scene where, like, soldiers were, you know, fucking around in hell, and Argisax was there, Arius was there from DMC2, because he's here for some reason. What? I mean, I guess if Lucia's here, fine, but... Alright, why is he head of Darkcom again? Well, I don't care. Virgil appears. He is saving a bunch of Macayans, because that's what they're called, not demons. And he literally quotes parts of his DMC5 song, Bury the Light, right before Bury the Light plays. I didn't see that scene because I dropped the show after that. I was laughing so much, and I thought, this show's terrible. This show's horrible, and I just stopped. But I missed that scene. I kind of wish I stuck around to the end just to see that, because holy crap, that's as bad as Mufasa shouting his song lyrics, Be Prepared, in the live-action Disney Lion King. I'm sorry, like, the show itself doesn't... I know it sounds like I hate the show. I really don't. I just think it's bad. And there's a lot I don't give a shit about. As its own story, I think it's so unsubtle and poorly written and terrible. And as an adaptation, it fails. I mean, that goes without saying, but even on its own merits, it's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. It's drivel. And, you know, it's a shame because there are good things to like. I think the 2D animation is good. The CGI is putrid, but the 2D animation is fine. I think it's pretty damn good. There are some action scenes that, despite some wonky CGI, are pretty well done. Dante has some fun moments. Some, you know. I think the voice acting's pretty good. And really, if I'm being perfectly honest here, I wasn't really despising it. I despised parts of it, like Lady, but really, Lady's really the only two things I actively groaned at with how much I hated it was Lady and the idea of the Macayans. As I just thought those were just bad ideas and bad execution, and just didn't work. And I guess Darkcom as well, but you know, I could take or leave most of it, but really the ending in particular, it just left such a putrid taste in my mouth. It might just be the worst ending to a thing I think I've ever seen in my life. That's not hyperbole. I'd have to think about that. It might be the worst ending to any season I've ever seen. And yeah, I know it's not the end of the show. I know it's been picked up for a season 2. They probably did that stupid thing where they had like one season, but they split it into 2 for production reasons. So now it's like season 1 part 1, season 1 part 2. I mean, I am kind of curious to see how they follow up on that awful fucking ending. Just my bewilderment at how bad the ending is. I'm curious to see where they go with that, but man, I don't give a shit about the show as a whole. You know, and again, I sound like I hate the show. I really don't. I'm just bewildered by a lot of it. I'm bewildered by the people who like it. Really, you like this? I mean, it's okay. You can enjoy it. That's fine. But I mean, I guess there's an audience for it. But it's like, really? I don't get it, man. I don't know. You do you. I just don't care about the show. I just think it's bad. I just think it sucks. You know? Like, I don't have anything against any of the people who made it. I don't have any ill will towards anyone making it. I sound more angry than I actually am at the show. I'm really not angry. I'm not even really disappointed either, because to be honest, I didn't really know what to expect. And I guess I got what I didn't expect. I guess. A lot of it did surprise me. Not in a good way, but some parts of it did surprise me. Now, I know some people are saying that this is a DMC reboot situation in how bad the story and added political messaging is, and I mean, it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna mince words here. I thought it was pretty bad. I don't think it's as bad because I thought the DMC reboot, even though the gameplay was absolutely fine, I liked the gameplay of the reboot, but the story itself was just putrid. It was just absolutely putrid. But I will give the reboot writing this. At least it kind of was self-aware. I don't think this series is trying to be self-aware. It tries to be self-aware with how much of a dork they made Dante, and not in a good way. But it's not really self-aware. It very much wants to be taken as Shakespeare. It wants to be taken seriously. No. I take this about as seriously as the ham-fisted political bullshit in the reboot. But at least that tried to play it up as somewhat of a joke. I mean, it was paper-thin political messaging, and it was laughably executed, but this is honestly the same. I would still say this is better written than the reboot, but not by much. It's pretty bad. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy the new DMC anime, you know. So I guess it just hasn't really been a great time for me with TV shows I've been watching. But hey, you know, At the end of the day, it's just a really, really bad video game adaptation. We have plenty of those, and honestly, so long as this show doesn't affect the DMC games, and I don't really think it will, whatever. It's a bad show, it's a bad adaptation, and I'm just gonna wash my hands of it. The only way I'll truly be mad is if they actually put elements of the show in the game. Like, wholesale. Like, I do not have Makayans in the new DMC. If you do, I'm gonna riot. Other than that, who cares? It's a non-canon story, and, you know, I think a lot of the reaction... I think a lot of the criticism and reaction to the show from DMC fans is justified. I don't think the harassment sent to people working on the show or people who like the show is justified, obviously. But I think a lot of the critiques, like Lady being the main character, Lady cussing up a storm, the ending being putrid, the Makayans being a poorly implemented decision, and the writing being bad, all of that is justified, though. This really is just I'm sorry, it's a bad show, alright? Like, to me, it's a bad show. If you like it, if you think it's great, more power to you. Good for you. Hey, pick up the games, you know? Pick up the games and see what you think. Good for you. But by all means, this show sucks to me. Get it away from me. I'm moving on from it. I'm not even really angry. I'm not disgusted. I just think the show sucks, and I don't like it. And I'm going to move on from it. Anyway, that's all from me. My voice is shot from talking for like over 2 hours to a microphone, so I'm going to get a drink and go to sleep. Bye.